Before we jump into today's video, there is something very important that I need to say.
Hi.
So yeah, for this one, we're going to take a look at 5 of the best loadouts you can use for dungeons and save the world. Before we take a look at them, there's a couple things I should point out. These aren't the only loadouts that you could use for dungeons. There's a lot of different variations for these loadouts that you could also use. As a matter of fact, if there's any loadouts that I don't show that you all would recommend, be sure to let us know in the comments below. Because like I said, there's a lot of different loadouts you could use. But we're only going to be taking a look at 5 of the more popular ones. And I guess first we'll start off with the standard dungeon loadout. This is the one that's probably used the most out of all of the loadouts I'm about to show you. For your commander slot, you're going to want to use a soldier that has the Going Again commander perk. So in this example, I have Sub Commando Jonesy, but he was part of a Twitch Prime pack, so I know not a lot of people have him. You could also use Commando Ramirez if you have her. I believe she was from one of the PlayStation packs. And if you don't have either of those, you could use Da Baby, because he also has the same standard and commander perk. And you can actually recruit Commando Spitfire from the collection book, so that's how you'll be able to get him. And the reason we chose to use this hero is because if you use him with the Happy Holidays team perk, you'll only have a 5-second cooldown in between your miniguns. And as of right now, miniguns is one of the best abilities to use when it comes to destroying monoliths. So if you use this hero, you'll be able to use your minigun often, and you'll be able to destroy those monoliths a lot easier. So that's why we use them, and that's why we use the Happy Holidays team perk to shorten our cooldowns. For our support team, we have Birthday Brigade Ramirez. She's going to help our minigun last longer, so we can destroy more monoliths with one use of the minigun. If you don't have Birthday Brigade Ramirez, then you could also use Sergeant Jonesy, because he has the same perks as her, but I don't have him maxed out, so that's why I was using Birthday Brigade Ramirez. We also have Ted, which makes our minigun more powerful. We also put Birthday Jonesy in our support team in order to help us get our health back. Another person you could use though is Archetype Havoc, because he'll allow you to move faster whenever you use your shockwave. So you could use either one of those for that spot. We also have Diecast Jonesy, which increases the damage of our minigun. And last up we have Fleetfoot Ken, which is going to help us run faster. So yeah, it doesn't really matter which dungeon you're doing. This loadout's going to be good for all of them. Now for the second loadout, it's basically the same thing as this one, but we switch Sub Commando Jonesy with Diecast Jonesy. So with this one, we have Diecast as our commander, and that increases our minigun damage even more. It also changes the damage type to energy, and everything else is still the same, except we have Sub Commando Jonesy in our support team instead of as our commander. So that way we can still have that decreased minigun cooldown. And we also took away Archetype Havoc, because Diecast Jonesy does not have the shockwave, so he's not needed. Instead, we put in Special Forces Ramirez in order to help buff our war cry. Sub Commando Jonesy's gonna be good when it comes to getting all the monoliths, and he's also pretty good for the final boss, but you're gonna wanna have somebody with a war cry when it comes to the final boss, so that way you'll be able to kill him a lot easier. And again, his minigun deals more damage than Sub Commando Jonesy's. So what I would recommend doing is you have at least 2 people in your squad playing as Sub Commando, and you want to have at least 1 person using Diecast, so that way you'll all be able to use a war cry on the final boss. So yeah, it's very similar to the previous one, but this one's needed because it has war cry, which is going to be useful for everybody. So that's another loadout you can use when it comes to dungeons. This next one is also a really popular loadout when it comes to dungeons. And for this one, we have Carbide in our support team. And the reason we're using him is because his lefty and righty is also good when it comes to destroying monoliths. And not only that, his lefty and righty is also good when it comes to killing the final bosses in dungeons. The main dungeon I use Carbide for is the Grotto dungeon with the 4 blaster bosses at the end. If you can trap them all in like a little 1-by-1 room and then shoot your lefty and righty, you should be able to kill them all really easily. And not only that, he's also good for destroying urns, because if you shoot his lefty and righty all over the place, they bounce off of walls and destroy everything they hit. So with Carbide, you'll be able to kill dungeon bosses really fast. you'll be able to destroy monoliths pretty easily, and you'll also be able to destroy urns really easily as well. So that's why people use carbide for dungeons. Now, just like with the previous loadouts, there's a lot of different variations you can use when it comes to your support team. But for my carbide dungeon loadout, we're going to be using Happy Holidays, so we can use our abilities more often. For our support team, we have Archetype Havoc, so we can move fast whenever we use our shockwave. We also have Noir, which extends carbide's lefty and righty duration. We also have Azalea Clark, and the reason we chose Azalea Clark instead of Raven is because I believe Raven is bugged at the moment. He doesn't really buff carbide's lefty and righty like he's supposed to, so that's why we chose Azalea Clark instead of Raven. But if they do end up fixing Raven's standard perk, then you may want to use him instead of Azalea Clark. We also have Extraterrestrial Rio, as well as Birthday Jonesy. And like I said, you can use this loadout for any dungeon, but the main dungeon I use carbide on are the Grotto dungeons. But this is another really good loadout you can use when it comes to dungeons. Now this next one is only good if you're playing in a full lobby with other people. And this is one you're going to want to use if you're speed running dungeons. Like earlier when I said you want to have at least 2 people using Sub Commando, at least 1 person using Diecast Jonesy. You're going to want your 4th person to use a Recon Scout Outlander. And this person's main purpose is to run as fast as you can to the next door and open it up as quickly as possible. You're going to ignore all of the monoliths, let the soldiers take them out. If you see any shadow keys laying around, you can pick them up. But yeah, with this loadout, your main purpose is to get to the next door and open it as quickly as possible. So if you play dungeons solo, you're not going to want to use this loadout. But if you're playing with a full lobby and you're trying to speed run dungeons, then you're going to want to have at least 1 person use this loadout. So for our commander, we have a Recon Scout Jess. She increases the distance of your phase shift, and it also increases your movement speed by 140% for 3 seconds. We also have Blast from the Past. For our support team, we have Flash AC, and this is another reason we don't need Happy Holidays. We can reduce our cooldown by using Flash AC. We also have Fossil Southie, Prehistoric Isa, Phase Scout Jess, and Fleetfoot Ken. We use these 2 in order to activate Blast from the Past, and we use these 2 down here in order to help us get to that next door quicker. So again, I would not recommend using this as a solo loadout. I would only recommend using this if you're playing with a full lobby and if you're trying to speed run it. And the last loadout we're going to go over is the Swamp Knight loadout. Now the reason we use Swamp Knight is because, well, for one, he increases damage versus Miss Monsters whenever your health is missing. But another reason we're using him is because whenever you take damage, you'll have a 45% chance to conjure a phantasm, and obviously those phantasms deal energy damage to nearby enemies. But if you use Swamp Knight with the Trick and Treat team perk, those phantasms will also give you a 33% chance for a life leech, so they'll also give you a chance to get your health back. And that's the main reason we didn't put Birthday Jonesy in our support team, because we can get health back from our phantasm. For our support team, we have Diecast Jonesy to increase the damage of our minigun. We also have Willow and Ghoul Trooper Ramirez, and we use these 2 for a couple reasons. It's going to increase the damage of our minigun as well as increase the duration of our war cry. The main reason we chose these 2 is because it activates our Trick and Treat team perk. We're also using Ted to buff our minigun and a Commando Soldier to reduce our minigun cooldown. Another reason I really like this hero is because he has really good abilities. So he has the Shockwave, and again, you can use Archetype Havoc if you want to increase your movement speed every time you use your Shockwave. He also has War Cry, which is good for the final bosses in dungeons, and he also has the minigun, which is good for monoliths and the final bosses. Considering he has really good abilities as well as the Phantasm perk to help you survive a little bit, I would consider him to be another great hero to use for dungeons. And those are the 5 dungeon loadouts that I would recommend trying out. Now, like I said previously, there's a lot of different loadouts you can use, so if there's one that I didn't mention that you all think is useful for dungeons, let us know in the comments below. Also, big shout out to Breeze, Magic, Soap, and Mr. Mini for helping with these loadouts. I wanted to make sure we had the very best loadouts, so I asked for their opinion, and these were the best 5 loadouts we could come up with. Anyways, that'll do it for this one. I hope y'all found the video useful, and thanks for watching.